We would like to apologize for the break that we had last week, but due to the fact that the author was dumb pluggered out after traveling and having a fun vacation, he did not have any energy left. And now, twist the time, chapter 10, Love Triangle. She's back! Have you seen her yet? Do you think she'll stay? Things won't be the same for me after this. She's a big enough to our village!
The pig medic.
Sakura's informal medical practice was gaining a reputation in the Land of Waves. Early the next morning, she returned to the spot where she healed the first child, only to discover an enormous crowd of children were eagerly waiting for her. As word of practice spread, she was exposed to increasingly grave and complex injuries. The late morning, Sakura was tending to the wounded villagers of all ages and walks of life. This healing station became increasingly sophisticated as the hours stretched on. With the help of kind volunteers from the village, before lunchtime, Sakura found herself working under a huge tent sheltering a table, chairs, and five makeshift beds for her patients. Naruto, Sasuke, and Kakashi organized a place for the villagers to form a line by pegging ropes with wooden posts. Sakura's patients willingly abided to the arrangement, allowing those with more critical wounds to skip to the front line. This is quite something, Sakura, said Kakashi from where he sat across his patients' beds. He was on bodyguard duty and sent the boys to watch over the bridge building for the morning. He was still recovering from severe chakra depletion and the injuries Sapasa inflicted. He spent his entire shift in a chair beside his crutches propped up on the wall of the tent. He seemed content with the opportunity to read a little certain orange book, but he asked Sakura the occasional question. I know, Sakura said hurriedly as she beckoned for a young boy at the front of the line to get in the empty bed. But there are just so many of them, and I don't have any medications or even bandages to work for. You seem very well versed, though, Kakashi said while closing his book and folding his arms across his chest. You really have been doing this for a long time, haven't you? Yes, Sakura answered quickly, turning her attention to a woman with a badly broken leg. Kakashi watched her intently for several minutes before returning to his book. After her lunch break, Sakura noticed that her reserve chakra had indeed grown since her time travel mission began, and manipulation of medical chakra was refining. Despite her exhaustion, she knew if she took periodic breaks, she could heal a significant number of villagers. Maybe Sasuke was right after all. Maybe this practice wasn't a complete waste of time. But Sakura couldn't help feeling weary. There's no way she could heal everyone alone. She suspected her work would anger Gao, the village tyrant. Was send a village assassin after her? She shuddered at the thought. And who knew what other enemies her goodwill would attract? Her pigmatic reputation made her rather identifiable too. Maybe I should diet or invest in a wig after all. Sakura-chan! Halting her train of thought, she turned to the source of her voice. Naruto, who was now on guard duty, leading a woman wearing a tattered brown cloak to the front of the line. What's wrong? Sakura asked the woman, expecting her to present a critical injury. She's here to assist you, Naruto said with an enormous grin and a double thumbs up. She's a civilian nurse and offered to help you run this thing. I don't take very advanced skills, but I know how to treat basic industries. The woman said, bowing deeply. It's a very nice I can do. Taken by surprise, Sakura blinked several times and nodded. Thank you. Could you look after the first two beds? By the time Sasuke's bodyguard shift started, Sakura was overseeing not only 3 civilian medics, and also 2 ninjas with basic skills in medical ninjutsu, each manning her own bed. She felt right at home in her authoritative role, because this was the type of position she held at Konoha's hospital in her former life. Sakura offered advice and took care of particularly complicated wounds on her own, but, overall, the volunteer assistance allowed Sakura to conserve some of her chakra while treating the 5 times as many patients. Sasuke hardly spoke a word to Sakura for the duration of the shift. He stood at the entrance of the tent, directed patients to medical stations, and helped small children, those with mobility impairments, into the beds. When Sakura stopped for a short break, she noticed that the youngest medical ninja was deeply each time Sasuke approached her station. She placed her hand on his arm when he lifted a child on the bed she was tending to. Thanks, Sasuke-kun, she said sweetly, while shooting him a wide smile and tucking a strand of her flaming red hair behind her ear. He nodded dismissively and noticed Sakura resting on a chair at the back of the tent, oblivious to both of the girl's irritated expressions. He approached her with his hands tucked in his pockets. Calling it quits, he asked. Sorry, girls, but there's only one Sakura Blossom for Sasuke. No, just taking a break, she said a little decisively while stretching out her arms. It was only now she was finally sitting down. She realized how much of her body was aching. All right, he answered, taking a seat beside her. All the beds were currently occupied, so his basic traffic control services weren't needed at the moment. They gazed out at the villagers waiting patiently, line, and the village medics hard at work. Sakura's healing tent was transforming into a rather efficient system. Despite how the tent was filled with injured and sick individuals, villagers' spirits were high. Sakura was presented with countless thank yous and homemade gifts. I can't believe you did this, Sasuke mumbled after a few minutes. He was leaning back with his arms folded. Neither can I, Sakura answered honestly, while admiring a handcrafted piece of jewelry the woman had given her after Sakura extracted poison from her husband's leg. I guess we don't have a functional or affordable hospital around here. Not that the villagers here can afford much at all. And the more she thought about dreadful living conditions in the land of waves, the more she loathed that slimy, selfless billionaire Gato. Worst of all, Gato was determined to destroy Tetsuya's bridge and trap the villagers here. I've been thinking, Sakura, Sasuke said slowly, while staring at the ever-shrinking line of waiting villagers. Sakura turned to him and raised her eyebrows. I want to know about your revenge. Oh! Sakura's heart rate quickened, and felt perspiration had nothing to do with her exhausted depth in her forehead. He didn't seem to know. Yeah, I don't know a thing about your past. Sakura's mouth grew very dry. She didn't have a prepared answer for this. She wasn't about to wing it and risk exposing too much about her mission. Sakura glanced as he quickly averted her gaze. She couldn't afford for him to see through her like he usually did. Not right now. But Sakura could feel his expectant eyes on her as she racked her brain for an excuse to get away. Sakura! I need your help! Sakura spun in the direction of the new voice, instantly relieved. Thank the gods! Nine Paps, hey! How's it going? The medical ninja, with the obvious sting for Sasuke, was waving her over. Sakura sprang to her feet and menaced to join the woman. Not now, she muttered to Sasuke as she made a beeline for the redhead station. She didn't care if the medic was just trying to catch his attention, or more likely, redirect Sasuke's attention away from her. Wait a minute. Red hair. Medical abilities. Kyrene, is that you? And there, Kakashi claimed, to Sakura more than anyone, the Team 7 would be training as a group the following afternoon. I have a special exercise in mind, he said. But then, to Sakura's relief, she discovered that her tent was self-sustaining enough to proceed without her presence for a few hours. The nicest of medical supplies had been offered to Sakura's team. Now they had a variety of medications, bandages, and reference books to use, allowing them to treat a wider range of conditions. She bid the other medics farewell before she and Naruto, who had been guard duty, left for the forest to meet Sasuke and Kakashi start training. Upon their arrival, Kakashi announced that he would show them how to climb enormous trees in an unusual fashion. Then, with crutches in his hands, he started walking up a tree with his body parallel to the ground. Naruto and Sasuke stared at him in amazement, while he explained how just the right amount of chakra had to be exerted from the foot or to stick to the tree trunk. Sasuke shot Sakura a sideways glance during Kakashi's explanation. Sakura knew he was thinking of the exercise he taught when he stuck Cirque into their hands. Sakura nodded back. The tree climbing would involve the exact same amount of chakra control. When put to the test, Sakura raced up to the top of the tree she had in her former life. She had always excelled in chakra control. You know, people make fun of Sakura and insult her. Why do they forget that out of the 3 trainees here, she had the best chakra control? Hell, why do you think she was put on guard duty for Tazuna? Anything else and she would have been bored with the lessons. This lesson was about control, manipulation, and focus. Sakura already had all that, so there was no need to go on to the rest of the lesson. Also, I have to slap my head whenever people use this to insult Kakashi. He's teaching them a very advanced technique. Watch the early episodes of Naruto. And mainly the tuning exams. How many of those guys actually used wall climbing besides Team 7? Until they get to the second round. Yeah. Our teammates, on the other hand, struggled. After 20 minutes, Naruto managed to climb up about 10 feet, and Sasuke 20 feet. He is excelling faster than he did in Sakura's previous life, thanks to his private training with Sakura, but he still had a lot of work to do. Kakashi admitted he was unsurprised by Sakura's excellence at climbing trees, since he was practicing medical ninja. Medical ninjutsu users are the chakra control leaders in the ninja world. He explains to the boys, Sakura is even way out of my league, so I suggest you consult her if you need any help. Naruto immediately claimed Sakura as his personal coach, but before she even looked down, she knew that Naruto's main issue was his lack of concentration. She stared into the markings Naruto had made in the tree to track his progress. He had hardly improved in the hour that he had been training, as indicated by how all of the marks in his tree were clumped at the bottom. Naruto, staring at Sasuke's tree, was bore more markings that reached twice as high as his. This sucks! He mumbled. He's doing much better than me. You could be him, Sakura encouraged. Not at this rate, he said with a frustrated sigh. Sakura frowned. She needed to fix his uncharacteristic gloominess, or he wouldn't improve at all. Tell you what, she said. Whoever gets to the top of the tree first gets to take me on a date. As anticipated, Naruto's eyes instantly lit up. Nothing fired the guy more than a competition. A date! He repeated thoughtfully, while turning to Sasuke and squaring his shoulders to size him up. Yeah, I like the sound of that. But better to get your butt kicked back. And then Naruto was running up a tree with a new rush of adrenaline. Sasuke rolled his eyes at his teammate and continued training in silence. Neither of the boys made it up the tree before supper. After they ate, the two of them left for the forest and practiced late into the night. They were both almost entirely out of chakra. Meanwhile, Sakura stayed with Tazuna's family and slept soundly to replenish enough of her chakra to help out the medical tent the following day. The next night, after Sakura spent the day alternating between working at her tent and guarding Tazuna at the bridge, Sasuke and Naruto finally made it to the top of the trees. They emerged into Tazuna's house while everyone was sitting around the dinner table. Sasuke hoisted Naruto in, who was struggling to walk. We did it! Naruto exclaimed breathlessly. We made it to the top! Excellent, Sasuke said with a nod of approval. And I am nearly healed. We were just about ready to provide our bodyguard services as a team. Yeah! Believe it! Naruto said as he reaching up to punch the air, forgetting his arm was hooked around Sasuke's shoulders. As a result, he hit Sasuke square in the jaw and sent them both toppling to the floor. Now, I would like to say I'm only allowing this because this is connected to the dub, and second, I'd like continuing doing a running gag that this is somehow going to pop up in almost every single thing I do Naruto-wise. After a long, nasty exchange, and Tazuna going on a spiel about how having Kakashi's team around was keeping him youthful, the boys finally reached the table and wolfed down their food like the tired, starving teenagers they were. Naruto only paused to speak to Sakura. Oh, and I'm terribly sorry, Sakura-chan, but Sasuke made it to the top of the tree about 10 seconds before I did. So, I guess we won't be going on that date after all. That's fine, Hinata's over there. Yay! Sasuke swallowed his mouthful, a huge gulp, and slammed down his chopsticks. More like 10 hours, dumbass, he snapped. I spent most of the day stopping you from falling out of your tree. Well, you were just showing off! Naruto snarled through a mouthful of food. I pretended to fall so I could test you! The argument continued. Sakura's mind started to wander. Had Sasuke really learned to climb the tree much earlier than Naruto? Once he remembered, the two of them had been partnered in a previous life. So, he was gaining new skills at a miraculously fast pace. Does this mean he would learn all the skills he could for Konoha earlier than his former self did? Would he grow bored faster and seek out the sources of power? Would he leave the fields earlier? Was he just being at the downward spiral that his former self was caught in? Sakura-chan, you okay? Simply to notice the head all turned to her direction. You look pale, said Kakashi, who had been talking to the bridge builder and his family. I think you, all of you, should get some rest tonight. I forbid training after hours. Right, Sakura said while shaking her head, blinking rapidly to pull herself to the present. After supper, Sakura offered to clean the dishes so she could think without any distractions. She needed to reassess her mission and everything she was doing with her new life. She was going to save Sasuke herself. She needed to get strong enough to stop him from leaving. But if it was growing at the same rate she was, it didn't matter how strong she got, it would always overpower her. Before her mind got any further in swelling, Sasuke appeared beside Sakura and reached for a dirty plate. What are you doing? She asked. Body tensed up at the sight of him. Helping. He answered simply, by avoiding eye contact and passing her the freshly scrubbed plate to rinse. Sakura pursed her lips. She very well knew that washing dishes wasn't why Sasuke was here. He's going to ask about my revenge again. Sakura hadn't gotten around to formulating an answer yet. She opened her mouth to say she had to leave, but he beat her to it. I made it to the top of the tree first, he said without sparing her a glance. Oh yeah? She questioned, feeling a mixture of relief and unease at this unexpected choice of conversation. That's good. She started rinsing the plate. Sakura tucked a loose strand of her shoulder-length hair behind her ear and peered through the window above the sink into sand sitting in the horizon. She took a moment to relish in the beauty of pink and orange lights dancing across the water's surface, and spied the silhouettes of sailboats in the distance. It really was a beautiful village. There was a lot to cherish about this place, despite the rampant poverty and political corruption. We're not going on a date. Sakura thought the gesture was holding onto the counter. What? She stammered quickly, returning the plate to inspect it for cracks. Thankfully, there weren't any, but now she was thoroughly embarrassed. A date? That was the last thing she expected Sasuke to bring up. Feeling flustered, she hastily said, I wasn't expecting one. She turned back to the task at hand with increased focus. Right, he answered before returning to the dishes. Now all Sakura could hear was the clanging and scrubbing of dishes, and her heartbeat pounding in her ears. She couldn't stop her mind from racing. Why on earth was he talking to her about such trivial things right now? Did he really think Sakura was expecting a date? Or was this his awkward way of initiating small talk? Definitely not, she told herself firmly, feeling her heart to slow down its beating. She determinedly kept her eyes trained on the mug she was aggressively scrubbing. She was so determined, in fact, she didn't notice Sasuke flashed up directly behind her, till his lips were hovering beside her ear. His whisper was so soft it was barely audible. Let's go train tonight, he said, a goosebumps raised where Sasuke's breath tickled the side of her neck. If I didn't know better, Sasuke, I could have sworn this is your way of saying, honey, let's go on that date my way. Then again, maybe it just was Road to Ninja, Sasuke. Sakura promptly dropped the mug to the counter with a crash. It shattered. What are you? She started, but was cut short when Sasuke moved a hand over her mouth. Shut up. Yes, Kakashi said no sneaking out, so I don't want him hearing. Sakura opened her mouth to speak, but couldn't with her teammate's palm in the way, so he wrenched his hand off and finally took a proper look at his face. and regretted it immediately. The light of the sunset was dancing across Sasuke's dark eyes. It was so close that she could make out the rims of his pupils. Round dilated pupils flitted across his face and took everything in. The unkempt bangs, arch of his eyebrows, his straight nose, curve of his jaw. Was it really fair how smitten she was? And to make it all worse, Sasuke's lips curled into a smirk. Sakura hoped it was because he interpreted her silence as compliance to train with him, and not because he realized how utterly stupid the effect he had on her. She said, hoping to somehow regain her composure, but completely failing. That was when Naruto burst into the kitchen. Guys, it's bedtime now! Hey, what's going on here? Sakura's head snapped around as she acknowledged that this interaction probably appeared as strange as it was. Sasuke and Sakura were facing each other in a pile of broken mug pieces, while Sakura gripping onto Sasuke's hand. And she just forced away from her mouth. She released immediately turned on her heel. Perfect! She snapped. I'm going to bed. So am I, she heard Sasuke say as she stalked off. But Sakura made a mess and left, so I've got to clean this first. Although she technically hadn't agreed to train with Sasuke, Sakura settled into her sleeping bag, fully clad in her backup training attire. And surely enough, after lying down for 30 minutes, just when she started to doze off, Sasuke roused her awake. He grabbed her hand before Sakura could instinctively reach for a knife and whispered, "Let's go." The two of them snuck out, and trained lightly on creaky floorboards of Tasuna's house and back porch, into the forest. Instead of her signature training clothes, Sakura was wearing a pair of gray cropped pants with a weapon holster trapped over her right thigh and a red sleeveless top. Sasuke hadn't bothered putting on training gear at all, as he was pretty sure the black shirt and gray sweats he was wearing were normally slept in. He hadn't bothered to grab the forehead protectors on the way out either. At a slow jog, Sasuke led her through the trees in silence. The air was cool, but the starry sky was clear of clouds, were brightening their surroundings considerably. Soon, they arrived at a clearing lined with tall trees where Team 7 was previously trained together. I'm not very good at tree climbing yet, Sasuke admitted, breaking the silence and stopping his tracks. I only made it to the top a few times. Well, show me what you can do, Sakura said while nodding in his direction and folding her arms across his chest. Alright, he said. Sasuke closed his eyes and brought his hands together as a basic hand seal as he concentrated chakra to the soles of his feet. He proceeded to climb halfway up a tree before exerting too much chakra. It was blasted a hole in the trunk and reeling backwards off the tree. Damn it! He growled as he hopped from the tree trunk to control his descent. I've done this before. Maybe I'm not concentrating enough. He gazed up at the branches and ran a hand through his messy black hair. Sakura considered his comment. Maybe you're concentrating too much, she mused. Sasuke raised his eyebrows, prompting her to elaborate. You do have skills in chakra control. I've seen them. But I think you pumping too much chakra into your feet because you're too focused on the task. He shrugged. But if I don't focus enough, I'll have the opposite problem, right? Sasuke had a point. What he needed was something to preoccupy him. Something that would shift his attention without completely distracting him from tree climbing. Sakura glanced around the clearing. They didn't have many supplies to work with, so she would have to get creative. How about? She said, noticing a large pine cone on the ground beside a tree. We play catch. She smiled and tossed the pine cone to him. Catch? He repeated, assuming a skeptical look. I don't have time for games. Hold on, I have an idea, she said, raising a finger to pause him. Throw that pine cone as high as you can. After one more disbelieving glance, Sasuke obliged and sent the pine cone hurling up into the darkness. As quick as a flash, Sakura raced up the tree beside them, her eyes trained on the little brown speck, which was beginning its descent towards the ground. Anticipating the point of interception, she sprang for the tree to catch it, and landed on a tree on the opposite side of the clearing. She clung to the trunk with her feet in free hand. Sakura glanced down to where Sasuke stood about 30 feet below her. She watched her with a raised eyebrow. Fine. Maybe this isn't such a bad idea, he said. Your turn, she called playfully, tossing the pine cone high into the clearing. Sasuke, copying Sakura's former actions, managed to catch it. He landed on a tree beside her, clinging to it with only his feet. It took Sasuke a moment to steady himself. Once he caught his breath and gained his bearings, Sakura glimpsed a ghost of a smile before he threw the pine cone high into the air again. She was right, it seemed. His chakra control was flawless when it wasn't the only thing on his mind. Out came a cast and showed. The two teammates bounded into the branches, flew through the clearing, and collected the tree trunks with various parts of their bodies. They made it very high into the trees. Sasuke didn't seem to notice until Sakura pointed it out. This was by far the most enjoyable training exercise they'd done yet. In fact, this was the most fun Sakura had as long as he could remember. She hardly noticed the cool air against her bare arms. Now her muscles were engaged, and her heart was racing. She felt like a kid again, like her former young teenage self who didn't have the weight of her time travel mission to bear. The game of cats came to an end. Sasuke accidentally hit her with a pine cone. He froze and eyed the red mark on her leg. I didn't mean... He started while slipping over to her tree. But he was interrupted by throwing the pine cone right back at him. He managed to catch it before it hit him square in the chest. Sakura laughed at a surprised reaction and jumped out of sight in preparation to return fire. And that was how a game of catch became a pinecone fight. If anybody's playing some romantic music in your head right now, it's okay, so am I. He spent the next 30 minutes firing the small wooden ball at each other while climbing higher and higher through the trees. Sakura absolutely wondered if Sasuke was enjoying himself. She had a feeling he was, especially when she caught him smirking at some of her more ridiculous acrobatic attempts to dodge the pine cone. Several was nearly sent her plummeting to the town, and how his attacks became progressively more ruthless as the game went on. Sasuke didn't come off as the kind to enjoy silly, mindless games, but perhaps he never had the opportunity to. Have you met his dad? That was when Sakura spied her teammates slipped behind a trunk at the very top of the tree, deciding to launch a surprise attack. She crept up the tree beside it, and then began to sprang down the branch and fired the pine cone in the direction of his chakra signature. But he wasn't there. The pine cone stuck to the trunk and bounced in the branch, and started 70 foot descent to the ground. She made no motion to catch it. Sakura was baffled. She had been certain Sasuke was there. She rolled around, but now even his chakra was undetectable. Sasuke? She called out quietly, but received no answer. Sakura pressed herself to the tree trunk and listened for any sign of rustling branches or footsteps. Her ears were only met with the sounds of the night. She folded her arms across her chest. Sakura whirled around and said, "No fair! Stop hiding your chakra like that!" But only the soft chirping of crickets and the distant hoot of the owl answered her. Frowning, Sakura scanned her surroundings for any trace of her teammate's head, looking out for the branches, but no avail. How did he disappear like that? Did something happen? Anxiety began to well up inside of her as thoughts of a certain ninja hunter worked around his village carved into her mind. That thought spiral began as an image of another villain, one snake-like, and after Sasuke found his way to her mind's eye. Sasuke-kun! Sakura cried, failing to hide the desperation in her voice. Pinecone hit her in the back of the head. She spun around to find Sasuke standing on a nearby branch, his arms folded and a smug look splashed on his face. You underestimate my ability to conceal chakra, he said while shaking his head. Calm down. Sakura turned away defiantly, and was thankful it was too dark to see her flushed face. You cheated, she said. Sasuke, you didn't have to hide your chakra like that. Sasuke hopped over to her branch. You're just saying that because you're losing. He glowed with a shrug. For Sakura could really comprehend his comment and opened her mouth to retort. A loud snap resounded below them, and her stomach somersaulted because she was failing. Evidently, the press couldn't support both their weights. Sakura's body froze in shock as it plummeted towards the ground, scraping against branches and snapping small twigs. She didn't pay attention to the pain, though, because she needed to get a hold of herself and grip onto something. That was when Sakura was forced backwards against the tree trunk, when enforcement nearly knocked her breath out of her. It took seconds for Sakura to process Sasuke had stopped her fall by sandwiching her against a tree. His chocolate-loaded hands and feet were pressed to the trunk as anchors, and even secure enough for Sakura to stand on his feet. Thanks, she gasped in his ear with heavy breaths. Good thing you can stick to trees now, she added with a breathless chuckle. Before she could stop him, the chuckle became a giggle. The giggle became a full-blown laughing fit. This really was an unusual predicament to be in. Last month, Sasuke Uchiha wanted a rogue ninja applying the massive structure of the Hidden Leaf Village. For this month, in fact, by the time Sakura had seen her beloved ex-teammate in the past 3 years, he had been aiming a Chidori-brittled sword at her heart, or had a hand around her throat. And now they were united again, pressed together against a tree trunk 70 feet in the air, the heat of a vicious pinecone fight. Water pulled in Sakura's tear ducts. Sasuke drew his head back to get a proper view of her face. What? He asked. His tone was serious, but the way his lips were pursed told her he was probably biting back a smile, and maybe he had a laugh of his own. But Sakura was so long gone, she couldn't even check out her response. She lifted a hand to wipe her eyes, and Sasuke peacefully watched her from a split second, a few inches away, until she finally managed to compose herself. Done yet? He asked, cocking an eyebrow. Sakura exhaled deeply from her nose. I think so, she said, peering up out through teary eyes. That was when it dawned on her just how close he was. Instinctively, Sakura turned her face away and pressed her head closer harder to the tree trunk, breath catching and her heart thumping. Sasuke seemed to take this as his cue to help his teammate down to the nearest branch. Well, this one seems stronger. As he sat himself down on the branch, he beckoned for Sakura to join him. They sat there in silence for a moment, shoulder to shoulder, gazing out at the forest, village in the distance, and the starry night sky. Crickets softly chirped, and the leaves rustled in the soft breeze. It was both relaxing and exhilarating to be so high up in the air and have a stunning view of the land of leaves. It took a while for Sakura to notice her palms were aching from the cuts caused by tree trunks in their game, and scrapes from the branches during their fall. And her hands were sore, so were Sasuke's. Without a moment's hesitation, Sakura reached for his hand, which was resting on the side nearest to her, and directed a steady stream of medical chakra into it. Sasuke seemed startled by her touch, but he didn't resist her kind gesture. He flipped his hand over to give her access to his palm, which had sustained most of the damage from the rough tree bark. Sasuke watched patiently as he finished up his first hand before offering her the other. Only then did he speak. Sakura, he said quietly, staring down the green glow encompassing her hands. Will you tell me about your revenge now? Sakura's stomach flipped like she had fallen clean off the branch. Of course, she realized. That's what this entire night is really about. She kept her eyes trained on her hands as she bit her lip. I need to buy time. Is this information your reward for winning the bet? She has a small smile. Sasuke responded with a look. Told her he had no idea what she was talking about. You know, the one over the eraser, on the day we met Kakashi Sensei? Sai's wide in understanding, but shook his head. No, he said slowly. I'm not trying to pressure you. Sakura nodded as her smile faltered. I have no idea where to begin, she said, and staring off into the distance so she couldn't see the panic written all over her face. Now what? He had her trapped up here in the stand tree. He didn't really have time to formulate a believable cover-up. This is what our game boiled down to, huh? Sasuke didn't care to help her with the gisters or play catch with the pine cones. All along, he was trying to soften her up so she'd give him the information he wanted. A bitter taste rose to her mouth. That sneaky, manipulative Uchiha. Well, how about I ask you some questions? He said, and his question came out as a statement. Sakura nodded slowly, pulled her hands away from her teammate's healed ones. She figured it was just selective of her answers. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad. It wasn't like Sasuke had any friends or secret correspondences who he confided in anyways. Alright then, he said. You mentioned training under a mentor. Who was it? Sakura stared at her hands, racking her brain for a convincing lie. She couldn't think of it. Oh, the hell with it all. What of the legendary Sani? I've heard about them, was Sasuke's reply. His voice showed surprise. Which one? Sakura gulped. This was risky, but it was too late to back out now. Tsunade sent you. One of the most powerful medical ninjas in the world. I am, or was, her apprentice. Sakura started channeling medical chakra into her own cuts to busy herself. Explains a lot. But she doesn't know who I am anymore. She added hurriedly, a incident happened and her memories of me were erased. Sakura's hands continued to tremble, because technically she wasn't lying. Sasuke seemed to notice her discomfort. He didn't ask for details. He waited patiently for her to continue. And just before the incident, she signed me on a mission. A mission? He had pleaded. Is that what your revenge is about? Completing a mission? Yeah. She said her palms were fully healed now. Continued staring down at them intently. I was appointed to mission because apparently my mentor thought I would get strong enough to complete it, and, well, I have a personal investment in the cause. Her voice was shaking now. I really don't want to talk about it. Sakura could hardly believe what she was voicing. It was easy, far too easy, to see Sasuke as a confidant figure. As nice as having just someone to talk to was, she was getting far too close to exposing more about herself than she probably should. In a moment, Sasuke said, I'm sorry. Sakura daringly followed her eyes to flicker to his face, saw intently he was watching her. She averted them again. Just one more question for now, he said. Sakura mentally released a huge sigh of relief. Sasuke clearly sensed her discomfort and was winding his conversation down. You said someone important to you was taken away. He continued, and Sakura's heart nearly began to pound. Were you talking about your mentor? You just had to ask about that. Sakura thought with a grimace. He's perceptive, isn't he? Sasuke clearly paid attention to her introductory speech a month ago. No, she answered, shaking her head. But someone who I love more than anything. She had an unnerving hunch and her face was flaming red now. She did anticipate the conversation taking a turn in this direction. This is so awkward. Family? He asked quietly. No, not family, she said, staring down at the ground while fighting an influx of painful memories. Sasuke, this is your conscience speaking. Repeat, this is your conscience speaking. You're never going to have a better time than this. Kiss her! Sakura sensed her teammate shift and instantly spared him a glance, only to find he was blinking at her with expressive of utter confusion. Really? I didn't know you. He started before abruptly turning his head in the opposite direction, letting out a slow breath, incessantly drumming his fingers against his kneecap. Sakura puzzled over his unusual change of demeanor. But then it dawned on her, her head tucked upright. Sasuke was on his feet. All right. That was the last question, he said curtly. Let's head back. It's late. Oh, if only I could hear Yuri actually say some of this dialogue. Sasuke, She started, but he began to descend from the tree without sparing her a glance, leaving Sakura alone in the branch. She couldn't believe the improbability of the situation. Something Sakura had said was quite obviously shocked, perhaps even unsettled her teammate. She had absurd, sneaky suspicion she knew what it was. He thinks I'm in love with someone else,